Hi there, my name's Kirsten. This is the Paper Knits podcast, episode number 9. Normally my podcast is like the typical knitting podcast where I like talk about what I'm wearing and talk about my FOs and my whips and acquisitions and all that. And my other 8 episodes are all of that. Today's going to be a little bit different. So if you're new here, this one's, just a little bit of a different episode. Today I'm going to be talking about the things that I knit for my daughter Beth. Beth was born last December, on December 19th, and she died on December 26th. Knitting was a really important part of my pregnancy. Just in my excitement and hopes for what life with our daughter was going to be. It was an important part of me connecting with her. And this was the first, I have 2 other children, they're 7 and 5, and so when I was pregnant with my first, I was like a newbie knitter and did knit a couple of things for him. And when I was pregnant with, did he ever wear anything? I'm not sure. He wore a toque. I'll show that later. And when I was pregnant with my second, I tried to knit a few more things, including this blanket that's behind me, but I didn't finish it in time. And by the time I was pregnant then with Beth, I was much more of an avid knitter, had older children, had much more time on my hands to be knitting than when I was pregnant with my second and I had, a toddler running around. And yeah, I had a lot of excitement, I guess, about knitting for Beth and sewing as well. There's a couple of things I'm going to show for sewing. And as I was going through kind of tallying up all the things that I made for her and just like, making notes and stuff for it so that I could talk about it today, I am impressed with myself about all the things that I finished. Because as I mentioned before, like this blanket that I was like, oh, baby blanket for my second. And I just I didn't finish it till he was like a year old. And there's things that I'm just very glad that I finished them before Beth was born, because they would have never been finished otherwise. And there are a few things that just they didn't get done, or I had plans for, they just never came to it. I'm really glad that I have these things that I've created for her. I was uncertain about how much to share, I guess, about what happened. And truthfully, I don't remember all that I have shared in my previous episodes, I guess. After she died, my sort of philosophy about life became a little bit like, oh my gosh, nothing matters. I should just do whatever the hell I want. And so, well, for some people that might mean quit your job and move to, I don't know. I always say Norway. I don't think most people up and move their way to Norway. I just want to go there because of the knitting. But what that meant for me was, I'm going to start the podcast that I've always wanted to start, or that I've been trying to, get the courage to start for 2 years. And so I started this in April of 2023. And why it felt important for me to just finally do it, I guess, is knitting was such an important part for my pregnancy. It's been a really important part of my life just in terms of my mental health. And then obviously after losing my daughter, that mental health part of it became extra important. Knitting has been an important part of my grief. I was knitting beside her in her NICU bed. I was buying yarn to cope. After she died, I was knitting just hours and hours and hours a day in the immediate aftermath, and me being able to talk about this craft that I love so much and has been so positive for me, but kind of in this light of this tragedy, I guess. I've really appreciated being able to talk about it here on my podcast and on Instagram, whatever. with people who also love to knit and have a really deep appreciation for how helpful it can be going through something horrible, to have this consistent, soothing, rhythmic, creative, tangible thing that you get to create with your hands. And I'm really grateful that I have had knitting to help me cope, better than some of my other coping mechanisms like scrolling TikTok for hours. And I have really appreciated how people have received that, as I start my podcast. And so, like I said, normally I talk about like the typical knitting podcaster things, but often it's woven into, knitted into my story with Beth. And the support that I've received from people has been just, I never could have imagined how positive it has been. And so thank you. Thank you for the people who've watched my episodes, for people who've commented and offered their support and condolences, who've shared their own stories of how knitting or other kinds of crafting has like helped them through their, loss, whatever way that looks like. And yeah, I mentioned in my last episode that's like, this is what the next one was going to be. Beth's birthday is coming up, and I really want to talk and like gush about the things that I created for her with people who can appreciate the excitement around those knits, and who've also sat with me in my grief as I've been processing this past year. Part of that is that I decided that I wanted to try and raise some money for an organization that's been helpful for us. And so I made a fundraising page through Canada Helps for an organization called the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support Center. They're based out of Calgary. I'm in Edmonton. They're based out of Calgary, but they help, I think, Canada-wide, at least. They offer free grief, like one-on-one grief coaching, with people who've also experienced loss and then have become certified coaches with that. They have support groups that meet for, kind of a variety of different journeys that people might be on. It was early loss, late loss, miscarriage, infertility, things like that, SIDS. They have a support line that you can call or text just to like connect with somebody else who's also like experienced this type of loss, and just sort of like a crisis support line kind of thing. They provide they call them comfort boxes, and so to bereaved families, and so it's just like some things to bring comfort, a candle and a nice journal and some writing prompts for connecting with your baby, or a nice like a piece of jewelry or something to like remind you of your baby or stuff like that. Anyways, that's one of the things that they provide. And yeah, just a lot of other kind of resources. So I would like to, my goal is to raise $500 that can go towards this organization, and I will have the link posted below if you would like to donate. If you're in Canada and you like, either you could do it directly, I guess, to the organization, or you could do it through my like fundraising page on Canada Helps, but you can get a tax receipt for your donation. They're a registered charity. I don't know how that works if you're not in Canada. If there's like some other way, if there's like a different way that you can like get a tax receipt for like your charitable donation. I'm not sure about how all that works. And yeah, that's gonna go from whenever I started it today, but like who knows when this will get posted, until her birthday's on December 19th. I just put the end date for the fundraiser on December 22nd, which I think is the Friday that week. And yeah, it would mean a lot to me if you are able to support this organization that's been helpful for us. I would also just love if there's something local to you that you know, does this similar kind of work and you want to donate to them instead. Like, that's lovely. I kind of want to keep a tally of like how much, you know, I called it like Beth's birthday, like how much we raised for Beth's birthday. And so if you donate elsewhere and want to let me know, so I can just like, you know how I like my spreadsheet, so I can like add it to my tally, but you don't need to do that. And I just remembered I wanted to wear I have a necklace for Beth, and so I'm gonna go and get it, and then I will continue onwards. Do you think that this will show up if I hold it up closely? Is that backwards to you? I can't tell. It's just a B. Not just a B. It's a B for Beth. So yeah, the necklace is from a jeweler here in Edmonton called So Pretty Care Connor, and yeah, just like to wear it. First thing I wanted to talk about was what I'm wearing, which is not something that I knit for Beth, but it's the sweater that I wore for our maternity pictures, which we did in November 2022. And I knew that I wanted to wear something that I had knit, and actually I had knit a sweater for this purpose. I knit a Felix sweater, and I knew we were going to do outside pictures. We live in Edmonton. It was snowy and cold, and so I had knit a sweater out of Let Lopi, the Felix sweater, and it was just like not the vibe that I was going for. It was like quite oversized and like quite gapey in the neck. It looked really casual. That's not what we were going for our like beautiful maternity pictures. And so I decided like really last minute to wear this sweater and like a nice like flowy skirt. And so I'm like a little bit sure that my photographer was like, okay, you're wearing like a really baggy skirt and a really baggy sweater, and we're like supposed to be showing off your baby bump. So we were like forever like trying to like cut my belly and whatever, but anyways, I love this sweater, and so I was happy to like I really wanted to wear something that I knit, and this felt like the perfect alternative to like my other one that didn't quite work out. So this is the Morel sweater by Fiber Tales, and I knit it with a Camarose yarn that I don't know how to pronounce, and a Smiling Sheep Fine Yarns mohair. So Camarose I think is from Denmark maybe. Smiling Sheep is from Leduc. And so yeah, anyways, so like a fingering weight yarn and mohair held together. The description of it on the pattern says, the Morel sweater is a seamless boxy sweater with drop shoulders and all over texture. Morel is the name of a cherry variety in Danish, and the sweater was inspired by the long, chilly Scandinavian summer evenings, eating cherries and wearing long, flowy summer dresses and light sweaters. And so I thought that was funny because I picked this one then to wear because it was like, oh, good, a warm, cozy sweater in the middle of winter in Edmonton outside in the snow. Not quite the same vibe, but it's quite a warm sweater. So this was my Christmas cast on in 2021. And so I knit it well before I was pregnant and whatever. It had been on my list for a while, and I bought the yarn that fall and I cast it on Christmas. It took me quite like a couple months to make. It's like quite intricate with like all the cables. I definitely learned how to like ladder back, like drop down a cable and fix it, because I like had miscrossed a few, and it's got the little like cherries and stuff for like all these little baubles. And anyways, it was a hard knit, and one to be like, yes, I've done it, it's complete, I'd never want to knit it again kind of thing. But anyways, it's very warm and cozy, so I'm sure I will put in some pictures from our maternity pictures in here as well. But we have some really beautiful family pictures that include all 5 of us in a way that's not the way we wanted to have our family pictures. All the rest of our family pictures with Beth are in the hospital. So I'm really grateful for our beautiful maternity pictures. This photographer we had used for our maternity and actually not for maternity, for our newborn pictures with our second. And then we did like 6-month pictures and 1-year pictures with him. And yeah, she was really lovely. It was nice to work with her again. And yeah, that's what I'm wearing. So into what I knit for Beth now. So as I was going through, I mostly had made Ravelry pages for all of my projects, which was good because some of them I literally have no memory of making them. And so it was funny kind of going through, and one of them that I didn't actually make a Ravelry page, and I just like found it in her bin, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember making that at all, which is kind of funny. As I've been saying, it's like it was so meaningful for me to knit for her, and then there were some things that just were not, that just didn't stick apparently. So anyways, one of them that did though, I think this was maybe the first thing that I made when I found out I was pregnant. It's a Friday sweater by Petite Knit, and I made it with, so the yarn is by Haiku, I want to say, and it's the Kobasi base. So it's like, it's cotton, bamboo, nylon, and silk. It was a really like interesting yarn to work with. The only note that I wrote on my Ravelry page was that, I'm not gonna lie, the stitch texture reminds me of a dishcloth. But I did not enjoy knitting this. I can't remember what the stitch pattern is called. If it's like if it's broken rib or something maybe. I'm pretty sure that Petite Knit has a like adult size version of the same sweater, and I was like, oh yeah, I will not be making that. I found it very tedious, but it's like soft and squishy and cute, and I knit this before we knew we were having a girl. Girls are also allowed to wear blue. Yeah, it's just very, very squishy and soft. I have like quite a bit of this yarn left over, and I don't know what else to use it for. Like I think people knit socks with it. Maybe I could try that. Anyways, it's kind of an interesting, made it interesting fabric, I guess, that I hadn't worked with anything like that before. So yeah, I cast this on in June. It took me a couple weeks to knit. Yeah. Okay, the next sweater is one that I have no memory of making. And so I do remember making this hat. I went to like a knit night kind of thing at one of my local yarn stores and cast on a hat, and then by the time I finished knit night, I had finished the hat. So that's probably why I remember making this. And then I made a matching sweater, and this is what I don't remember making. And I was like, just found it in her bin of clothes, and I was like, oh, I must have made that because it matches the hat. So this is a flax sweater by Tin Can Knits, with a little matching barley hat, minus the garter on the barley hat. And I'm pretty sure that this is a Stell worsted, which is like a acrylic wool nylon blend. So yeah, this is cute. I think this is my third kids flax that I've worn, or that I've made. My boys will not wear the ones that I made them, and now they are too big for them. But it's just a classic pattern for all sizes. So I think that I made this also in the summer last year. Who knows when I made this, because like I said, I don't remember, but the hat definitely was from the summer. And just might as well go with another Tin Can Knits pattern. This is the Beloved Bonnet by Tin Can Knits. This was another one that I'm like, I don't remember making this. I remember the yarn because it was a special buy for me. This is Ancient Arts Herlig, and so it was a new, at the time they had like just released it, which is why I bought a skein of it. And it's a Norwegian wool and merino mix, and this was the color Kismet. Just kind of a nice semi-solid purple, and yeah, just really cute. Purple's my favorite color, and I'm not like into pink. I don't believe that colors have a gender, but babies always seem to end up, girl babies always end up with pink things. I really wanted her to end up with purple things. So yeah, there's a bit of a, you'll notice that theme coming up here, but anyways, just such a sweet little just such a sweet little classic baby knit as well, right? The little beloved bonnet. And so this, I think I made a note. I cast this on in September 27th, cast off September 29th. Obviously quick knit. Like I said, don't actually remember making this one, and I don't really know why. It was maybe just because it only took me 2 days, so I wasn't like I was slogging through it. But anyways. Okay, another thing is this little cardigan. It's called the Joyous Baby Cardigan. And this was my first test knit. And so I don't remember how I came across this designer, and why I signed up for a test knit randomly, and why I signed up for a test knit when I was very pregnant. This I made in November, and yeah, it was fun. It was a good experience. Like, it was a good first test knit because it's just a small project, right? And it was kind of an interesting construction on this little cardigan. You kind of like cast on at the top, and kind of it just like makes this big like almost full circle kind of thing, and then like all of a sudden it turns into a sweater. Like, it looks like, what the heck am I making? And then all of a sudden it's a sweater. And this I made with also Estelle Yarn Superwash Merino DK. So I'm pretty sure it's 100% wool. I didn't double check what the composition of it was, but superwash. It's very super washy. And yeah, just a cute little sweater. I don't know what any of the sizes are that I made for any of these things. I would have swatched for this because it was a test knit. Otherwise, I just like never really swatched for small things, which has definitely meant that I like made completely the wrong size for things, which is one of the things I'll get to. But anyways, this is a fun little project and a good first test knitting experience. This designer has quite a few like cute little baby items and stuff. So do you want to check her out? Okay, the next one is a little bit different. I had a knitting machine for a couple of years and knit a handful of things on it. I have a couple pair of socks that I made on it. It was the Pass Up Duomatic 80, and it's a double bed flatbed knitting machine. It had, it kind of was like this kind of shape, but like long ways. And so there was a bed of needles on the front and a bed of needles on the back, and that meant that you could knit in a tube, and so you can knit socks. And so I had made quite a handful of like not great adult size socks. One of the things that you could do on it is that you could make a short row heel on it, and you could do ribbing on it. You couldn't do ribbing in the round, but you could do ribbing flat and then seam it. And then you could, make a short row heel. You could decrease for the toes, and like I attempted that many times on adult socks. Like I said, they never really worked out. Somehow I made the most adorable little baby socks, and they worked so well on my machine. So I just like had the little top rolled down, but so this is just like seamed up the back, which is like kind of annoying. But look how cute they are. And like lots of the other ones I made had so many holes and stuff, like especially on the heels or like around the decreases. These ones were so perfect. So I just think they are so adorable. And yes, was just very happy with how they went. So the other thing that I made, my grand plan is that I was going to make us matching cardigans. And so I made this little baby one first. And this was a thing that never got finished and will never get finished. I kind of made up the pattern. It's such a tight gauge. Like, look at that on the machine knitting. That's perfect, right? And so this one was in pieces and then seamed. And I think that I sewed it up on my sewing machine, if I remember correctly. But yeah, such a tight little gauge. And so I had like done a gauge swatch. I had like a general pattern, but like my gauge was completely different. And so I just like did the math, figured out, how many rows I needed to like knit on the machine, and like did my decreases and had my pieces and sewed it all up and sewed up the little arms. And where I ran into troubles was trying to do the like button band, neck band kind of thing. Part of why this never got finished is that I attempted many times to knit ribbing to like either sew on or like pick up every little, every 2 out of 3 stitches or whatever, and like add them onto the little hooks on the knitting machine and like knit the ribbing, and it was a hot mess every time. My final plan is that I was going to crochet a little edge on it. I bought the tiniest crochet hook and I just never did it. And yeah, I had this great plan that I was gonna like make myself one too, and then when like the finishing of this one was like, no, it just, nothing more ever came of it. And then I sold the machine. So it was a steep learning curve learning the knitting machine. I wish that I had more capacity to keep learning it because it is kind of cool. But anyways, so I have an adorable pair of socks and a matching sweater that wasn't finished. And I want to show you the yarn that I used. Okay, I definitely just kicked my camera, so you're probably in a different spot now. This is the yarn I used. So the knitting machine had a very fine gauge, which is why that is such a fine gauge on the sweater. I bought, let's see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 giant cones of machine knitting yarn from a company called Fab Cycle. And so they sell, I think they exclusively sell dead stock fabric, and sometimes they have yarn. And so it's like, what's not being used in the manufacturing industry, they sell it at like a very good price. This company is based out of Vancouver, I want to say. Anyways, I have these giant cones of yarn, and when I sold my knitting machine, the person didn't want them. And so I said, okay, I'll just keep them. And then I just like have them stacked in a corner. Like, this is so dusty because it's been sitting in the corner. And when I bought the knitting machine, they, included a bunch of stuff, which is what I used like when I was practicing. But I still like have all of that left over. And then I have all these giant things to use, and it's so fine. I probably have to hold it. If I held maybe 4 strands of it together, I could knit with it, like hand knit it. I had enough to make myself a sweater, but that will never be. Okay, so next thing is some little bloomers that I made. These were never blocked or anything, so it needs to get, it's got nice little lace texture on it and stuff, but this was a little set from a set of like, there's these little like bloomers and a little cardigan and a little pair of booties that I was going to make. And I made this, my husband and I went on a little getaway in November, maybe October, to the Banff Springs, which is just like one of my favorite places on earth. And we were there, they had their Christmas decorations up, and it just was so beautiful. And we went to the spa, and we floated in the pool, and sat and read books, and I knit and whatever. So I made this that weekend, and out of Santa's Garden Cardigan, and I guess this I finished. There was like the other things from the set that like those just will not be finished. It felt important to me to have things for Beth that were 100% untreated wool. And so obviously everything else that I've shown you is not that. The herlig is, I guess, for the little bonnet. But babies don't generally poop on their hats. Or like spit up on them. A little bit easier to wash. But I had it. I was just like very committed to having some 100% wool, non-superwash things for her. Like I said, January baby. We live where it's cold and snowy, and I love the idea of having, like wool has all these amazing properties, right? About like, moisture wicking and like heat regulation and stuff. And I just am not convinced that any of that still exists when it's superwash. And so I wanted to have proper wool, and knowing full well that babies immediately poop and spit up on pee on things, and that those things were going to need to be washed, and that if this got put into the washing machine and then tossed in the dryer along with everything else, that it would shrink into a small little like doll size thing. But I was gonna do it. I had this plan to put up a list like with like a picture of the item next to the washing machine, so that, you know, if my mom was here helping after baby was born, or like my husband's tossing the stuff in the laundry or whatever, and like doesn't know that this is specifically made out of Sandnesgarn and Pure Gent 100% Norwegian wool, will absolutely felt that I was going to be like, check for these items before throwing them into the washing machine, please. And we cloth diapered with almost like for quite a while with our first. The second we did for actually still for quite a while. And I used, man, what were they called? Flats. So like they're like flour sack towels. And so you like fold them all up and like put them into the little cover. And we did more laundry than we needed to because we were cloth diapering. So I was like, I can do it. I can hand wash Beth's wool items. So who knows if I would have like done it one time and be like, okay, I hate this. Like blocking my knits is like one of my least favorite tasks. I was gonna make it a little bit simpler for myself by buying a spin dryer, like just like a little stand-up kind of one, because it's like, okay, that's one thing to like hand wash it and soak it, but then like you can't wring it out, it's soaking wet. There's only one place in my house that I can put things so that my cat doesn't get them, blah, blah, blah. If I could spin out the water, they would dry faster. It was just going to be this whole thing. Anyways, this is one of those items. But throwing it back to 8 years ago, before I was pregnant with our first, while I was learning to knit, I made these two little bloomers. And I don't know, bloomers, that sounds so funny. Diaper covers, whatever. These I'm pretty sure are made out of fisherman's wool. What brand is that? Lions brand? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that's what they are, and I'm pretty sure that it's the same wool that I have my mittens that I still wear like all the time made out of. But anyways, these were some of the very first things that I knit. And yeah, my husband had got me this interchangeable needle set from Knit Picks for Christmas that year. This is what I decided to make. And he also got me some double pointed needles because I, was like, I don't know how I did that at the time because I like didn't know what I was doing, but I made these two little woolly diaper covers. These were never worn by anybody. I was, like I said, I cloth diapered. I was super into the like cloth diapering world for a long time. That was my first introduction into wool, was the cloth diapering world. And if you have been a part of the cloth diapering world in the last 10 years, then you probably know exactly what you probably know exactly the vibe. If you weren't in that world, it's hard to explain, but people were really into wool diaper covers. And then you could buy some like very, very expensive wool diaper covers, and they were supposed to be breathable and they could absorb pee. Like you could have, like, you'd put on, I don't know why I'm going into all this right now, but you could like have their diaper, the absorbent part of the diaper, like which we used, which was the flats that we'd folded into a diaper shape, and then have that pinned with a snappy, and then you could have the wool diaper cover over top and not have plastic. Like a plastic diaper cover. And it was supposed to, like, because wool can absorb so much moisture before it feels wet, it's self-cleaning, all these things. It was like, but because they were so expensive, I was like, I'm not gonna buy those, I'll just knit some. And this was also, like I said, this was before I was pregnant with her first. I just was like super keen about having babies, and had anxiety and coped with my anxiety by researching everything. And so I was super into cloth diapering, baby wearing, lots of these things before I was ever even pregnant. Anyways, I just wanted to like, look, we've come full circle. 8 years ago, cute little knitted pants for babies. This year, cute little knitted pants for babies. 100% wool. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna show, I just have these couple things that I sewed. And they're just cute, and so that's why I want to show them. This is just a cute little pair of leggings, little pants. This is also dead stock fabric that I had bought from that same company. I think at the same time that I bought all the giant cones of yarn, and I had made matching leggings for myself, and they were too small immediately. They will never fit me. Whatever. Yeah, it doesn't. That happens a lot when I sew. It's like, oh yeah, great, I'm done. It doesn't fit. Anyways, they're just cute. And then the other thing that I made is, oops, this is covered in cat hair. I don't know where that's been sitting that it's covered in cat hair. This is these little jammies. So here's the print that's on it. They're cat constellations. And I had a bunch of this fabric, and I made a couple sets of pajamas for my boys. And so then I made a little matching set for Beth. And so I think that probably the boys would have still fit into theirs, only for the sake of like taking a picture with like all three of them wearing their matching jammies. But I thought these were so cute. And I have all these like snaps, like from a bulk pack on Amazon or whatever. And so I very carefully like selected colors that kind of matched, and the fabric is so thin and the snaps are so heavy duty that I'm like, this would have been a like, please be careful when unbuttoning, because it would just like, I'm sure it would have just ripped the fabric. But anyways, it's just so cute, right? Like this was like, this might have been a 6-month size. I can't remember exactly, but anyways, I was very proud of my my sewing for this one. This was not something that I knit. This was something that my sister-in-law knit for Beth. So my sister-in-law is also a knitter. We used to be Kirstens Who Knit on Instagram together. Her name is also Kirsten. I should have said that first. Which is so funny. We're both Kirstens. It's like such not a common name, especially pronouncing it that way. Anyways, she knit this beautiful dress for Beth. Also in purple, because I had made it known that I like purple for babies the best. And this was made with Sirdar Snuggly DK weight. I'm not sure what the pattern is, but yes, it's very beautiful. So that was really special. Like Kirsten is a very avid knitter, and yes, we just really love to talk about knitting together and like whatever we're working on. And I'll put her Instagram here. You should go check her out. I was really touched that Beth has something that her auntie knit for her. When my brother and sister-in-law came to the hospital to meet her, Kirsten brought this along, and so we have a picture with it, just kind of like draped over Beth in her little NICU bed, and yeah, this is really special. So just so many things that should have been. A million things that should have been. Okay, we're up to my favorite things that I knit for her now. One of them being a toque that I made from my other, like for my first. So this was one of the little sweaters that I made when I was pregnant with my first. There's a gray one and a green one. I finished this in time for my son to wear it home, but it never really got finished all the way because it's supposed to have like buttons or snaps on it. And I have another one that's a little bit bigger and green. This was a pattern book that I bought from, or that I like took out of the library. Couldn't tell you what it was. It's probably like Debbie Bliss or something, but anyways, so there's a little sweater, which Beth never wore, but then there's this little toque that matched. And so, yeah, my oldest son wore this home from the birth center. My second son was born at home, and so he just wore this at home chilling. And then Beth got to wear it as well. It's very small, so it fit my first son for a little while. My second son was 1.5 pounds more, and so it barely fit him right from the get-go. Beth was tiny, and so like she was like 5'11", and so this fit her. And I'm very glad that she got to wear it. It's poor quality acrylic yarn from Michael's that I bought ages ago, and very simple hat, very meaningful. The other thing that we dressed Beth in a little onesie that the boys both wore as well. So the hospital had some little clothes and stuff that they put her in. For most of the week she was in a NICU bed. Well, she was in the NICU bed the whole time, but doing like cooling therapy to try and help her brain heal. So she was just in a diaper, and then yeah, was just like being cooled. Her body was being cooled the whole time, and so there's kind of a protocol about like that being, I think, 3 days, and then they slowly warm her again. And after that, then they dressed her in a few things, and so. And there's a beautiful quilt. I'm assuming it was like a handmade quilt from somebody that people make like donations and stuff for this exact purpose, about like for little babies in the NICU. And so there's this beautiful quilt that she was kind of all tucked into then once she was warmed up. But we dressed her in this little outfit then that, again, all 3 of my babies got to wear, and put the little toque on her. For the day that she died. Okay. The next thing, I'm not totally sure why this became such an important item for me. This was something that sat on my dresser in my room for like 6 months after she died. Everything else had been like, they were like in her little drawers, and but this, I hadn't finished it quite yet. I had to like do a little seam on it. I just never did, and I just couldn't move it. And it's just like such a random item, but it is, I think it's called, I'll just look it up. The Snugglebug Car Seat Cozy by Kate Oates. And it's just like a little pants, and then this like wrap around, and like it's kind of like a little swaddle. And the idea of this was that it could be, again, something 100% wool, very cozy, warm, in a car seat, because again, I live in Canada, in Edmonton, and it is cold and wintry here, and she was a winter baby. And you can't put a kid in fluffy, warm things and then buckle them into a car seat, because then the car seat is not secure. Like the buckles aren't tight enough. And so this is like relatively thin, be a good layer that she would have been able to wear. You can, put it on them, buckle them here, and then this would like tuck around the straps. So I was like super into this idea. And I knit this with Rauma Phenol. And initially I initially made a little pair of overalls for her. Well, I didn't finish them because I did not swatch. And so it was Willem's Overalls by Petite Knit, which was, I knit for my niece like a few years ago. The first Petite Knit pattern that I ever made. Didn't know who she was, didn't know what a big deal she was. just like saw these cute little like overalls. So I made them for my niece, and then I was gonna make Beth a pair as well. But I didn't swatch and I wasn't paying attention, and so the legs were like huge, but I didn't I just knit to like the length that it said, and so they were like so short and squat, and like I was like, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. I just like kept going. I knit both legs and then like you like attach them at the crotch and like keep going up, and I was like, ugh, like they just looked so silly. I don't know if I have a picture of them. Anyways, I ripped it out. I like checked like what's the gauge on this that I'm just happen to be knitting this on. Great, let me find a pattern. I think that I don't know if I what I did to like make sure that this was going to be the right size, but anyway, it's basically a similar idea. It's just like little kind of like little overall kind of things, but anyways, and then yeah, it's got, actually I think I used that Herlig yarn that matched her bonnet for the edging on here. And so this is like, there's a little like, I had to sew up the little leg kind of crotch there that I messed up a little bit, and add the little buttons. Anyways, I was quite anxious about having to trek a baby back and forth for school pickup. And partly I was like, it would have been easier when I was not 8 months pregnant, because I could like barely walk. Yes, I could just, I was moving super slow, and a lot of pain, and yeah, it was tough for like most of my pregnancy. I was sick right till the very end. Like, yeah, I threw up the day that she was born. And then when I threw up, then I would pee my pants. Like it was great fun. And anyways, I was quite worried about like trekking this baby back and forth to the car to like go pick up my kids from school, and again with the 100% wool, like Norwegian babies who sleep outside in their strollers. Let's make some warm little car seat cozy for her, and yeah, like I said, I don't know why exactly this became like such a meaningful knit for me, but yes, it lived on my dresser for a long time, and then I moved it into her drawers in my room, and then just this past weekend we moved her bins with the rest of her clothes downstairs, and that's where they will stay for now. The last thing is my very favorite thing that I knit for her is a baby blanket. This is the thing that I'm especially like so proud of myself that I finished it, because it took me a long time, and by the end I was like pretty done with knitting it. And like I said, I tried to knit a baby blanket for my second and just never finished it. Ooh, maybe I knit that one for my first and never finished it. I think that's what it was. I think I was knitting it during my pregnancy with my first, and I didn't finish it until my second was born. That might be what it is, because there's another blanket that's yellow that I knit for my second that I also never finished. This is Beth's baby blanket, and I finished it. So yeah, this is a pattern by Caroline Sommerfeld, who's the owner of Ancient Arts Yarn, and this is made in Ancient Arts Yarn. So it's originally a stole, that's what it's called in the pattern. So I don't know what that means exactly, like a wrap. And then Ancient Yarns had kits that went with it, like these fade kits. And so I loved the fades, and I'd been like eyeing it for like years, and but like I didn't need I didn't want the stole, like I didn't want the wrap thing. I was like planning sweaters with it and like all these things. Anyways, Ancient Arts did a pop-up at River City Yarns in Edmonton, which used to be a yarn shop here, last summer, I want to say, and they had the kit there, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna turn it into a baby blanket. Then I can buy this kit that's like expensive and like beautiful. And so it's with their Nettle Soft DK base, which is a mix of nettle and wool and just that, merino and nettle. And then, yeah, with these like beautiful, beautiful colors. And so I bought the kit and just modified the pattern a little bit. I added some extra width to it to make it a bit more blanket sized. It's still quite like, it's not quite proportional, like it's longer than it is wide. And also I like bound off so loosely on, on the edge, and it's like kind of floppy. And then my cast on is like quite tight. It's an I-cord cast on, but whatever. And so it has these like lace sections, and then in between is like these other stitches, and I think that's supposed to be different every time, but I just like made them all the same. So these colors are, I think this one is Antique, Granny's in Lace, Bien, and then Paperweight, and they kind of fade together. And this is pink, but I love it. And yes, I'm so glad that I finished it. This was also with us when Beth died. Again, just a million things that should have been. This should have been the blanket that she drug around the house forever, but we got to have it. We got to have it with her when she died. Oh, like, I don't know, within a couple weeks, I think, after she died, this has been on my bed. Well, like tucked in the corner, like in between my bed and my nightstand mostly. Every once in a while, I like pull it out and give it a cuddle. My birdie likes to pee on things. That's my cat, if you don't know. And she pees on our bed like once a month at least. It's the whole thing. Usually she pees on the boys' bed, I think out of like spite sometimes for them, because they bug her. But anyways, one day she peed on my pillow and she peed on this blanket, and I was like, Birdie, like, why? Why did you just do that? And so this has made its way through the washing machine, and it did felt ever so slightly. I'm pretty sure it's superwash merino, but should not be in the washing machine on a hot wash. But it had cat pee on it, and so I was quite worried that it was going to be ruined, but it was not. So it did, yes, it definitely changed the like texture of it a little bit, and I didn't like reblock it afterwards, so it's a little bit like squished in on itself again. But anyways, this will be something I keep forever and ever. And this I finished, so I cast this on in August. I finished it December 13th. She was born on December 19th. Feels like a miracle that I finished it. And I'm so glad that I did, because yeah, this would have been something that just like remained unfinished. And I'm really glad that it's done. That's all the things that I knit for Beth. I had a lot of plans to sew a lot more things for her. Sewing is so much faster than knitting, but takes more brain power for me. And so there was a lot of things that I had plans for that I just never did, which is fine. But I don't think there was a lot of other like knitting plans that I'd had. I think I felt really happy. My alarm just went off. I have to go pick up my kid. I felt really like happy with all the things that I had for her, and was excited to make more things like as time went on. Thank you for sitting with me in this, hearing about the things I made for my baby. We don't know why she died, which sometimes is fine. I've sort of adopted the philosophy that like life really sucks sometimes and really shitty things happen sometimes. I was 37 weeks and 6 days pregnant the day that she was born. And that morning, I knew right away that something was wrong. In the midst of the chaos of, Birdie had peed on something that morning. I threw up, proceeded to pee my pants. We were racing around trying to get the kids out the door. Like I knew that something was wrong, but she wasn't moving. And but I found her heartbeat. Anyways, kids went off to school. My husband and I went to the hospital. And I had a emergency C-section. And yeah, we don't know what had happened, but she had been without oxygen, or low on oxygen, in utero, and they started doing the cold therapy right away to try and help her brain heal, but there had been too much damage. We had a really, really incredible team at the hospital that I am forever grateful for. I've since had a couple of like really shitty interactions with doctors who just like, didn't seem to care that my baby had died. I am so grateful for the team that we had at the NICU. They were incredible. They helped us navigate the impossible. We got to have Christmas all together at her bedside. And then the next day we said goodbye to her. Babies aren't supposed to die. And in this past year, I have met far too many people who have also experienced this. Nobody should have to go through this. Part of why I wanted to support the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Center is because they do offer support for all different types of pregnancy and infant loss, and neonatal loss is not common. Miscarriage is very common, and I'm betting that every person who's watching this knows, either has experienced that themselves or knows somebody who has. And I'm really glad that there's organizations out there to provide support. I also hate that there were so many organizations out there that we found. There was a lot of desperate Googling that week in the hospital, and then the weeks afterwards, just like, there's some really good resources out there. I'll link a few actually more. I made a post on my Instagram a while back with a bunch, but I'll link them here too. And I guess I would just encourage people to pick one of them, maybe pick an article to read, and the support that the things that people say and do just have such a huge impact on how that person is going to carry the story forward. And sometimes people say really shitty things when bad things happen. And for the most part, we received really incredible support. It feels important to me that people know more about pregnancy and infant loss, so that when they encounter somebody in their life who has experienced that they are able to have understanding and compassion and not say things like that it happened for a reason, or that God needed their angel home, or whatever. I think maybe some people find those things supportive, but most people that I've talked to don't find those things supportive. Okay, I don't have any nice wrap up to this. I literally have to go and pick up my kid from school. Thank you for being here with me in this. The link to fundraisers below. The money just goes straight to the organization. Like, it doesn't like come to me first or anything. Like, it just goes straight to the organization. It's just like a way for me to kind of tally up and like have my fundraising goal, $500. And yeah, December is going to be a really difficult month for us. And so if me and my family happen to cross your mind on December 19th, maybe you can light a candle for Beth, or raise a glass, or eat a bite of cake for her birthday. And yeah, I will be back in January with another episode. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to say like 99% sure I'm not going to be filming anything else before then. But I will have lots of things to show off by then. I whipped out a sweater last week in a week, like a bulky weight sweater, which will be just the coziness that I need right now. And yeah, I'll probably still be posting on Instagram, so you can find me there if you want, at paper.knits, and on Ravelry as This Is Paper Knits. And thank you for being here. Truly, I appreciate it so much. It's the internet is like kind of a wild place, and sometimes there's just like so much good there. And I really appreciate the good that I have found with people who want to watch me talk about my knitting. So, like, truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting with me in my grief. That's one of the best ways that you can support somebody, just being there with them. So, okay,